were already united, and we are united in pain. They are in a sinking ship, and Kenyans will not join them. My wife was pulled from the sofa set by a woman police officer and beaten. If there was anyone to fear, forget William Ruto. The fear is, what are those forces that have taken trillions from us and are still are? Who are those forces?
ODS debt is not a principle that's recognized in international law.
Who told you that?
Where was this done?
2, Mozambique. It was successful. Malaysia. And that is what you call now economic liberation.
Man, if Jimmy can pull this off, then the whole world will be transferred into a flourishing, economically stimulated tree of wealth for every country in Africa and every underserved country that has been raped and pillaged by the colonialist system. I just hope he can stay alive during this process. Like, subscribe, grab a drink. I don't have my drink. There's my drink, got it. So please, like, subscribe, and grab a drink. Get ready to embark on a new vision for the world. It's liberating.
To be in his sinking ship so that the masses do not have an alternative voice. He's just invited people into a sinking ship. We were already united, and we are united in pain. They are in a sinking ship, and Kenyans will not join them. Kenyans will not join them. They'll sink themselves.
Someone who has joined them is Raila Odinga, a man who is your ally. Can we safely
He is
call
my
him
friend
that?
and ally. He's my friend and ally.
Right.
And has
And
he
so
really joined them? Has he joined them? Has he joined them? Every time I'm hearing him, he's saying we have no handshake. There's no coalition with ODM. I don't know. Does he have
said no.
Does he have 1 foot in, 1 foot out?
You tell us. He's your friend.
He's minority leader. That's the opposition. Then he has somebody in government. Has he got both feet? Why is he got both feet everywhere? Why? Has he really joined them?
Have you asked him?
Or is he making sure that he can jump out whenever he wants?
Okay, but you're saying you don't agree with this broad-based government.
Not at all.
Which is one that your friend and ally has walked into and is on record, by the way, as saying that, he came to the rescue of this president.
This was really the only part of the interview that I feel like the question that he needs to come up with a clear answer on is, Raila Odinga a part of your master plan to take over Kenya? That seriously needs to be addressed. I mean, where does he fit in with you and with your vision? Because Raila Odinga is definitely a big who's who in the political zoo of corruption, right? So is this a blemish on Wanjigi's trust factor with Gen Z? Or is Jimmy playing the keep your friends close, but your enemies closer card without showing his hand? Let me know what you think in the comments.
Record, by the way, as saying that, he came to the rescue of this president. So what do you think of a move like that you don't agree with by your friend and ally?
Maybe he has not understood the gravity of the problem and how deep this ship has sunk. Let's wait and see how long they last when they're there, because they may jump out just before it completely sinks.
Have you talked to your friend and ally, Raila Odinga, about this?
Not about this. Not at all about this.
Is that why you didn't speak to him when he came by your house?
No, I didn't speak to him because it was not safe, according to my family, for me to show my head. That's all. My family were very insistent. They said they would rather themselves be brutalized. My wife was pulled from the sofa set by a woman police officer and beaten. So apart from the fact that she was saying, don't shoot, don't shoot, she was beaten. And they said, we are going to take this. If you come out, they are going to kill you.
And this is by an administration that your friend and ally is now a part of working with. He says he's not in, but, we've seen what we've seen. So what are your thoughts around his move and around the newcomers in cabinet?
Well, my thoughts are very simply this, that first and foremost, as I said, he seems to have 1 foot here and 1 foot there. He came to identify with my family in their plight. And we have talked about it after that. He was horrified by what he saw by his so-called partner, William Ruto. But he has today said they have no handshake, so they're not partners.
Correct me if I'm wrong, please, but doesn't Raila Odinga seem to be a politician who follows whatever is trending and tries to impart his person in whatever is trending publicly for publicity? Is he just a wannabe relevant publicity stuntman, political cow? Or is he genuine? I'm asking you all because you all know more about this than I do.
He was horrified by what he saw by his so-called partner, William Ruto. But he has today said they have no handshake, so they're not partners. I believe that those members he has donated are first and foremost retired members. And he sent them there, and unfortunately, they are going to sink with that ship. I like, for example, John Bundy. He's got a good brain. Next week, he's supposed to sign his first actual statements of revenue and expenditure. Gazette notice by the 16th. If he signs that notice, that Gazette notice, and he accepts something called odious debt, he has fallen into the trap. If I were him, I would be very careful what the Treasury officials ask him to sign. Very careful. If they even tell him this is normal, they are lying to him. It's a criminal enterprise, that Treasury. It is fraught with unconstitutionality and criminality. So entrenched and so deep and so far-reaching. I can tell you, Yvonne, if there was anyone to fear, forget William Ruto. The fear is, what are those forces that have taken trillions from us and are still are? Who are those forces? Those are the ones you should be saying I should be fearing. Because it's a criminal mafia beyond your imagination that has made sure we are an enslaved nation and will be for many years to come unless we solve this problem now.
And what is this problem now?
I'll tell you, it is fraught in unconstitutionality. I was talking earlier about, and soon you'll be hearing, there's no budget, there's no appropriation, because it did not have the revenue estimates. Okay? So he's spending collecting and spending money that is unconstitutional. They have refused to follow the law. And the only reason they are doing that is because there must be some benefit by avoiding it. Now that has caused us odious debt, and I'll simplify this odious debt. There's something called primary balance, right? You look at the accounts of the nation, its expenses and its income. So we did the sums, just simple math, from 2013 all the way to 2023 June, right? What are the expenses of a nation? Removing only one item, debt payments. So that total was 14.6 trillion. Then we said, what did Kenya revenue collect? Kenya revenue collected in the same period 13.3 trillion, right? Now 13.3 trillion means that in 10 years, the difference from 14.6 to 13.3 was 1.3 trillion. So if we needed to borrow, we only needed to borrow 1.3 trillion. It's important to understand that this sum of our expenses is the entire development budget, which was 6 trillion. It's entire counties' budgets. It's entire salaries. It is entire pensions. It is entire operations of the government. Difference, 1.3. So he said, what did the government borrow? They borrowed 7.7 trillion. 6.4 trillion that was not needed.
Where did it go?
But they went and sought an amendment, creating C and D in PFM, contrary to the Constitution. They amended the Constitution in the Public Finance Management Act, statute, rather than the Constitution, which is unconstitutional. And they created all sorts of places the money can go. It doesn't have to enter the consolidated fund. Right?
So, based on that argument, then, you're saying the debt is odious. And odious means what?
Odious means that it is not for us to pay. It never came to our benefit. It was not with our laws and cannot be apportioned and put to anything on our budgets because it was never there. Which means that Kenyans do not owe that money.
Let me ask you this. Odious debt is not a principle that's recognized in international law.
Who told you that? You see, we've already taken the argument to our courts. Our courts have already said that the revenue estimates, if they are not in your budget, then you have an unconstitutional budget.
The court declared the Finance Act 2023 unconstitutional, null and void. Understood. My question to you is then when you say that this is odious debt and therefore should not be paid by the Kenyan people, this is debt that's been taken internationally, right? So we go to them and say we're not going to pay this Because?
I'll tell you.
And how and where will you challenge this? Because there's a whole principle and there's a whole debate around the theory of ODS debt, not recognized in international law. To which international organization would you take this? I mean, we've got others like the ICC, the ICJ, but where would you take this to be able to challenge Kenyans' taxpayers towards paying a debt that's already been taken? Based on your argument, then you're saying that this was done in collusion?
You see, I would like to...
So I just want to understand here, Jimmy Wanjigi, you're saying IMF, China, others like the World Bank are in collusion with the Kenyan government towards giving them debt that they know they cannot repay. Is that what you're saying here today?
What I'm saying is that they must be in collusion, especially those organizations. Because if they read our laws, they would be asking questions about the syndicated loans. They'll be asking questions before they loan us about the Eurobonds that came from their countries.
So even all of the conditions, the preconditions that IMF puts in terms of making sure that the funds are used for development and for their intended purpose.
They would be asking questions about our domestic debt.
You don't think they're asking questions about that?
No, I don't believe they are.
With IMF doing now on their 7th review?
Why are they giving us money?
Okay.
Even them, even
so then
this
what
money,
are you saying? They're in collusion with this
even
administration?
This so-called, yes, absolutely. Even
so
this
IMF,
7th review.
World Bank, China?
No, I don't know about China. I can talk about SGR with China.
Okay. So who do you have a problem with respect to the debt that we've had?
I'll tell you. 2 pockets. What is called London Club, which houses the Eurobonds and the syndicated loans, and our domestic debt, which is now 5.4 trillion. All right? It is not anchored anywhere in law.
And the IMF and the World Bank?
The IMF, because they continually support a regime that has perpetuated economic impunity and economic genocide on the people of Kenya. They, by now, we've been speaking for how long? I am sure, in fact, I can tell you, I know they have listened to what I've been saying. They have analyzed it. And they know this government has broken the law. For some strange reason, they are still insisting on showing up a government that has shown impunity on Kenyans.
Okay, so based on that principle, show me precedents of where a country has been able to invoke this principle of ODS debt to say that we will not pay the money that we owe. And where was this done?
2, Mozambique. An investigation was done by the citizens of Mozambique, where they challenged the ODS debt of the tuna bond. It was $2 billion. I can tell you they won that case in their constitutional court. They were up against, their laws are not even as good as ours. They won that case in their constitutional court. They were up against parliament and an executive, and it was declared odious. Do you know Credit Suisse even refunded money and actually had some of their staff removed from office? It was successful. Malaysia.
If a man could take this to court and win against the international law for odious debt, we would see every country in the world photocopy this man's plan and get their countries out of debt, for the most part, in a big way. Those people who have invested into these worldwide Ponzi schemes to economically enslave nations would be screwed. Which is why this man is being targeted, and I'd suggest and encourage everyone to pray for him and his family, because when you're getting this deep into the realms of political finances, you become enemy number 1. This man, along with, say, somebody like Donald Trump, another man looking to infiltrate the system and dig deep into the states, the deep states' policies and their money, where they're getting it from, and who is all behind this, are probably on the IMF and the WOF and the World Bank's topmost 5 wanted list. So pray, that's all I can say is pray that this man stays safe. This would be a world-changing feat. What say you? Comments below, please.
It was successful. Malaysia, that gave that money, so-called for a sovereign wealth fund for development that government was doing. They called it and termed it odious. It went to people's pockets, right? It was struck off, right? And even the former prime minister is serving a 12-year sentence because of it. So it has been successful. In fact, the Americans started it with Cuba in the 1930s. So this is a successful model. The greatest thing with us here, and Yvonne, it's important to understand this.
Let's talk about this, though. It was revealed that, of course, the debt was taken without the approval of Parliament. In this case, our debt is being taken with the approval of Parliament. No approval of Parliament. But there's no approval. Hang on. I want to talk about the consequences of that and what happened. The economy was hit hard. Prices of commodities went up. The local currency fell by over 50% against the dollar. There were some serious ramifications for that. Is this something that we are able to live with?
Let me say this first. What I'm talking about has no approval of Parliament. It's like we have been operating two budgets. One in Parliament. For example, this last financial year, 23-24. All right? The first budget of William Samoei Ruto. And I brought this to his attention. I said Parliament passed foreign and external loans of 313 billion shillings to support a development expenditure of 800 billion plus, right? The rest coming from our taxes. But the immediate Gazette notice, the one you're going to see John Bundy signing next week, said that we have got borrowings of 870 foreign and external loans and 600 and something domestic. That was never approved by Parliament. So please, it's not approved by Parliament. When I'm telling you the revenue estimates were not submitted to Parliament, means nothing about debt taking has been approved by Parliament, because it must be in the revenue estimates. So it's been unconstitutional, and that is where Kenyans hang on to. And I'll tell you, we are not going to collapse because we have said we have cut off any odious debt. I gave you the sums. If in 10 years our expenses were 14.6 and our revenue hard earned by taxpayers here was 13.3, we had a shortage of only 1.3 in 10 years. Our development expenditure was 6 trillion. That means only 20% of that expenditure. We can even cut it off and say, let's do development of 4.7 trillion, and we are not borrowing from anybody. And the future of that sort of country is this. First, we have no baggage of any debt. So all the revenue that comes to the exchequer can be used for services of government. The other is that this monster called domestic debt, now all these banks have got to loan us.
Is that debt also odious?
It's odious. Debt? Absolutely odious.
So we shouldn't be paying back all that money, because it's not just money that's been lent by banks. It's also been lent by individual investors. What are you saying to those individual investors who have given money to the government?
They have unfortunately participated in an illegality. An illegality. And this is how it's so ridiculous. Even those that individual investors did. What they don't seem to understand is how it's fake. Here's our money that we put to government bonds. We are the government. This government is not using that money for anything on the budget. And then they come back for our taxes, right, to pay the same interest rate. So why do you think you're making money? Your taxes are being taken, you're giving your money so that your taxes can be taken. It makes no sense at all. Why are we doing it? 100% in collusion. How do you think some of these CEOs are earning salaries of 200 million a year? This is a collusion. You take our money from our deposits. You give it to the government at 18%, William Ruto was saying the other day. Then you come.
If Wanjigi ever made it as president, some say he will, we would see, I think, half the parliament of the deep states book flights out of there and getting asylum in France. Can you imagine that? It'd be like, hey, I'd like to book a flight out of Kenya to Paris, please, as soon as possible.
Sorry, sir. There's just none available since that Jimmy guy got elected. Try the United States. They might still have a few openings for the colonizers. And extra baggage rates have doubled, too. Lots of cash-filled suitcases coming in, and they're pretty heavy.
You give it to the government at 18%, William Ruto was saying the other day. Then you come with tax measures that have to pay it back. William Ruto's last budget had 800 billion for development. The actuals are only 315 he spent.
So
we have a significant problem here, that this money is not going to anything else but consumption. Because even in the last finance year, he borrowed 1.5 trillion. 1.5 trillion. And he's only done development of 300. So where did this other money go?
So,
$1.5 trillion. So let's see, 1 trillion is 1,000 billion. Think about that for a second. 1.5 trillion is 1,500 billion. 1 billion is 1,000 million, which means that 150,000 millions of dollars. Billion here, billion there. Nobody's going to miss it. Think about it. Oh, I can't. My mind stops thinking what I would do if I just had 1 million. I should have got a job in politics.
To anything else but consumption. Because even in the last finance year, he borrowed 1.5 trillion. 1.5 trillion. And he's only done development of 300. So where did this other money go?
So if we're saying, can't pay, won't pay. That's what you're saying.
What we're saying, we're not going to say even can't pay. We're saying this is not in our law, we can't pay it. We're not going to pay it.
Okay. If you were president today, what would be the 1, 2, 3 things that you would do to solve the crisis in the country?
I'll tell you. The first thing is that I would cut off the chain of debt. It is something I would cut off like yesterday. And that frees up government money to be able to provide services to Kenyans and stimulate the economy by taking money back to the people. And that is what you call now economic liberation.
America has a law that you have to be born in the United States to become president. I'd like to adjust that law so that you have to be either born in the United States or Africa. Why not, right? I mean, just to become president of the United States. That way, if Jimmy doesn't get in Kenya, the United States could have him come over here and at least give this method a shot. I mean, I'm going with Jimmy Wanjigi. Sorry, Trump. MAGA. Make Africa great again. What say you, ladies and gentlemen? Let me know, how do you feel about this video? This man, Jimmy Wanjigi, could this be the saving face in the future of the African Revolution moving forward? Or is it just another all talk, no walk political scam that would entangle the region into another term of political norms? And always remember that there is only one true king who rules and reigns now and forever, and his name is Jesus. And we here at the Speak and See Show, we ask that the Lord's will be done in all of this for the future of Africa and the whole entirety of the world. Unity, peace, and blessings to all of this One Love family. You're all in our prayers, and your future is looking brighter every day. We'll see you on the next one. Have a blessed one. Bye-bye.